Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have a ranked game for you guys today. I'm playing as the Lieutenant Colonel Sable Chevalier against the Brigadier General Hold the Fort. And it is always a bit of a scary thing when you queue into ranked and you see that higher rank here. I mean, Brigadier General is some of the best players in the entire game, and so you have to sort of adjust accordingly. And well, I figured what better way than to go for an all-in and alpha. Now I'm playing as Scandi Mech. You do still have a fair number of wheeled utility vehicles, in particular the Laro 106 Rifles Rifle Jeep, and my own personal favorite, the NM45 15-point wheeled anti-air / support vehicle. I think it's highly underrated, very, very good vehicle there. I mean, 24-50 meter range versus helicopters is quite nice. And so my intention is to fight over this side of the field for a while. I'm mechanized, I have infantry veterancy, I can do that infantry grind, and I also do have the B-can available to me. Now, the good one is not available in mech, but do the best you can. So there was an Mi-24D here, that's a 55-point helo, and I figured, you know what, we'll see if we can get killed there. I've got some units headed over toward Foxtrot, some to defend in Golf. A little bit of a trick that I'm trying to learn here for the Square Forest is to defend basically CV-9030Ns and Stormer, and you just kill anything that gets close, and it's enough, hopefully, to maintain an edge there. We do take down that helicopter, which was very nice. 55 points makes up for losing some of this stuff, but I didn't bring the smoke that I should have and been smoking off the fire support. You've got smoke about here. All of a sudden these BMPs aren't shooting. Maybe I can make it into the town. So instead I just pull off the road. We're getting up into the forest, and you know, I figured that's fine. We'll be alright. I have False Jäger, I have LHV, I have all this stuff, and it's a relatively forward position in Bravo, right? So this seems good. If I can defend near the Triangle Forest here, I have some RBS, both the anti-air and anti-tank variants. Gewehrmen on this side, and now we're getting a little bit of flank recon. Should probably get some on the right-hand side as well, along with some base defense, but that'll come next. So at this point, I was sitting there going, where is his opener? Right? Because we saw some things, we saw a couple of BMPs, but that's not a ton. And here it comes. So it turns out my opponent's also playing mech. You can tell by the infantry veterancy, because these are shocks, but they're at veterancy, and that is not available outside of infantry specs. Particularly mechanized is where you'll see that most common for things like shocks and lines, stuff like that. So that was a little worrisome. I'm just sending up some LHV, and the first buy, well, after the STRV 103 double stack, which probably should have been in my opener to be fair, is going to be a B-can. So we'll get that online, and if I spend the whole game RDing moat shoots in 90, I'm okay with that. 40-point groups, they're reasonably effective here. They will chew through my LHV, which is about the same price as one of them. All four of these combines to one single moat shoots in 90, rather. And then we're just going to do with that, we're going to do mortars, we're going to see what sorts of kills we can get there. B-can should be coming up in just a minute. And I was trying to get a cheeky kill on this MI2, but I think he saw me moving up and he is going to pull back there. And I don't want the automatic exposed to direct fire. So it seems my opponent's intention was just to bull right through in Bravo, and he was a little bit slower to get there than I was. I think that's a problem with the top side getting to this particular section of forest. There's the beacon. But, I mean, he certainly was able to push me out of the top side of the forest, which maybe I should have expected. Maybe I should have brought something that can fight a bit better, but I thought I'd just have the numbers, and I thought I'd be able to get that for free while my opponent was fighting over in Golf, which I really wouldn't have minded so much. So, Gewehrmen getting wrecked, B-Cam should be shooting in just a minute here, and I'm repositioning to really make use of these fire support vehicles, as well as the Scout Defender, who, even if it won't kill infantry off the bat there, right when it's moving down, will still deal a bit of morale damage, things like that. Jeez, I forgot about this. This SFL is a very nice anti-air piece there. And then we have the 103Ds we can support over on this side. Hold the Fort here has gone for a very light hold in Golf as well. So I figured let's make hay while the sun shines and, you know, move the M41A1s. They're very cheap. Didn't want to lose the False Jäger, but I mean, I was trying to put out a little bit of a fire over here, so sometimes that happens, right? What was interesting to me was the early alpha cap. And yeah, this gets my opponent tick, and Mudfight can be a map that really depends on getting early tick, but particularly when you don't have a super far forward board position, it seems like a bit of a weird buy. It could be, maybe, you know, he knows that I'm Scandi Mech, maybe he thought it would be a really hard woods fight, he wanted to just win on the early tick, but, you know, I have some points, we're going to get our own CV, probably head over to Foxtrot with it first, and then come back up here, and the M41A1s, I swear, man, these guys are absurdly good. Absurdly good. Now, One thing I will say, my beacon was a little bit reactive, and my opponent here did a very nice job of making sure that his infantry was never where I thought it was. So his Mochutsen are already this far forward, my beacon's not in the right position to shoot that, and you know, you definitely feel that over time. It does add up a whole bunch of misses where you're not actually grinding down your opponent's front line as much as you think you are, right? So we have NM113s, I have an automatic, double STRV, we're getting more infantry forward. I love the NM135. The RH202 is the same autocannon that's on the French 15-point VAP, just so you're aware. And you get it for 10 points, mechanized. Could have better frontal armor, but you know, you take what you can get. And this was just, I really wanted to blind him. So I'm trying to do that. We're going to pick up the anti-air piece, because why not? And we do get the kill there before an enemy tank comes over. And you know, this gives me some information. I know there's an enemy tank there. I know I blinded his, well, I took out his radar anti-air, which is more expensive than the vehicle that I used to get it, and that's going to be the CV buy into Fox. And notice, I do this after getting enough on the way here where I can do a fight in Bravo while I'm getting the cap, which, admittedly, my opponent did the fight in Bravo while capping Alpha, so, you know, I guess it worked well for him. He's going to be up at about 40-45 or so points before I really get to cancel that out. And this is nice as well. So I had RBS over here. It's one of my favorite things to do. It really zones out this section of the L Forest. And yeah, he's just chasing me out. Base Mochutsen, 15-point shocks. They're reasonable enough for anti-infantry work. Pretty cost effective. And here comes a little bit of pushback from me. So I do still have the NM135s. I'm trying to make sure I go over here on the right side as well. And we're just going to lead the way with a couple singular Gewehrmen. And the idea is we find my enemy's stuff and then we kill it. And we kill it with just oodles and oodles of fire support, more than really anything can take. LSTR here, and this is exactly that. Look, he killed an NM135. Oh no, we killed his LSTR. Now the problem I'm having is my opponent has bought I think actually just one Bavonka right now. It's 10 HE artillery. He saw my automatic, and I'm not really going to be able to get away in time. Now, if it were me, that dispersion would have been undershooting, and the automatic would be fine. But we get detracked. And that's going to keep us in the line of fire. So really unfortunate crit right there, not allowing me to retreat my automatic out of the way. And I figured, you know what? Let's call in a CV if he wants to get the early tick. Now that we're fighting here and I'm making some headway, namely with the LSTR kill. Let's get another CV. I can redirect it into golf if I need to. I can put it in Bravo, and he's actually Captain Bravo as well. And the second that flips red, now I know, okay, he has not had the points to really reinforce super heavy into Bravo. You get about 105 points per minute, plus 1,000 in the opener, and we haven't had the worst trades here, but it has added up to a fair amount, so I was reasonably confident I can at least hold the low ground, and that maybe leads to a cap, it maybe leads to at least being contested, and I can't let him have a +2, because that's 30 points a minute, that adds up quicker than you'd believe, so that really had to stop. And then, you know, the Mochutsen are panicked from the constant artillery pounding. We're actually getting some nice kills with them, even with the standard 5-point boxes here. Never underestimate those. And we're just going to go up top. We're going to see if I can get an early CV kill here. We need to clear out the Pruskundnichi. But I have double tank, I have NM135, and more to the point, if I get his command vehicle up here, then it pays for losing a lot of this, right? Not both the tanks, maybe, but if I can get some other kills around it, it definitely does. And with the beacon shooting, anything that's here to protect will definitely take a bit of a hammering as well. So that was sort of the goal. We'll see if we can make it happen. And in the meantime, just making sure I can clear this out, getting some more M41A1s. We saw how effective the first ones were, and the second ones, ooh, yeah. This was not pleasant. So I think Hold the Fort has definitely seen this counter push before and was definitely prepared for it. But we got a lot of good work in. That's the CV tank right there. It is 120-point CV tank, and you can't necessarily tell that off the bat. But, yeah, that was my guess anyway. We got it down to 1, and not able to quite clear it out. So, didn't really work. Most times when I do that, I get a lot more return on investment there, but this had me worried because, okay, I cleared a couple of units from the bottom side of Bravo, but not nearly as much as I wanted. I wasn't able to get the good return on investment. Now I did lose the automatic here that I was barely able to keep alive previously. That's a lot of points lost. So if we're doing that accounting that you sort of have to do as this game goes along, right now I'd say I'm not necessarily at the end of it that I'd want to be. So we're just going to pull back, we're going to keep the STRV 103Ds alive, we're going to get some resupply up here that probably needed to be up there earlier, and the Strip PV90, you know, I'm not comfortable holding Bravo against a Mochutsen push, so we're just going to go in here. I still have the CV9030Ns. We're going to buy some infantry to go there as well, just standard Dragoner. And this is fine. I mean, he's tried to probe over here a little bit. It's not really working out for him too well. And if I can clear out these Bruscomnici, well, mechanized infantry reinforcements are definitely a possible thing. But we do have a bit to overcome. So 95 points to 14. Not exactly where I'd like to be right now. But there it is. We actually did get the kill. So that's a dead CV tank right here. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, it has the little check flag. So that's dead CV tank. Bravo's decapped. If I can get a cap here that's +2 for me, as it is right now, +1 is good enough. 15 points a minute will at least help me close that gap and feel a little bit better about my prospects here. It also does force my opponent to replace it if he wants to keep that neutral, which is another tax on him. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you can force your opponent to buy command vehicles, you're forcing them to weaken their board presence, and every little bit there does count. So, another automatic coming up. The Bell 204s carry Falscream Jaeger 90, and then we're being really careful when you see your opponent really making good use of 10HE artillery. Move the beacon. Just keep it alive, don't let it sit because you will regret it. And, you know, just a small investment here, and I can see the Snezhka coming, I can see the BMP-1 coming. I figure he's probably going to come over here and try and get a kill, and that's fine with me. I think the double M41 beats the Snezhka, and will actually beat the BMP-1 as soon as it's blind as well. So, you know, no problems with that. We're bringing in some heavier guns here. I really like the CV9030N, 6 frontal armor, Bushmaster 2. What more can you want? Right, well, maybe more ammunition, but with resupply nearby, it won't be the worst thing ever. The issue at hand is to make sure that this doesn't develop into anything worse than it already is. So I did lose an M41. Wasn't really expecting that. Thought I could take out the Snezhka. Wasn't quite able to do it. But we're just withdrawing back, and the intention is to draw them into the firing line of the STRF, which is shorter than normal because it is line of sight obstructed by the trees, but as soon as it does get within range, it's very, very deadly, and it is protected from counterattack. Meanwhile, Hold the Fort is going for basically split side push. Light push over there, light push over here, and that, as long as I can manage that well, will be just fine for me, because split pushes tend to cost the attacker far more than the defender, unless it successfully splits the defender's micro, at which point, yeah, it'll get a gap in there that the attacker can exploit, but so far we're not letting that happen. M41 versus Snezhka with the STRF might be able to do something, and probably should have reinforced there. But I was concerned about the Vidra 2, about the SPW 50K, all this sort of stuff here. LHV not really going to be able to do all that much against it, although, you know, I don't hate their secondary, it's just, I don't know, they don't have the training to use it very well. That little bit of training makes a pretty big difference. So at this point, that Prom S is a bit of an issue. 35 points, very effective infantry killing power. It's actually how we lost the Stormer earlier, I just didn't exactly show that. They tried to push into the L Forest, and the Prom S was just coming down, took him out in like 3 shots, which is terrifying. 5 HE with splash damage, man. It's, that'll get you. That'll get you for sure. So, some light reinforcements, another STRF, an ATGM team. We're getting some M41s just to anticipate those dying. And then with the Prom S shooting, I did just want to peek forward, kill it, and then even if I lose a CV9030N, this is not necessarily that worthwhile, only up 10 points. But hey, we're up 10 points, well, 5 because of the lost box. I don't know, it's not a huge difference for the economy necessarily, but it did really make me feel more comfortable to deny that Prom S its spot. I mean, if you peel back your opponent's support, then it's harder for them to gather a push as well, and this is not super well defended. So, yeah, I mean, it would be... I'd probably trade at cost until they killed the CV. I was rather surprised, also, I just want to point out at this point, with 10HE artillery, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't pound square with it. I've seen people do that before. It will get through the armor on this thing, even if it takes a couple of volleys. And what choice do I have, right? My opponent has this section of town, my opponent has L Forest, I can't really cap anywhere else. I could get creative and put it over here, but that risks direct fire from my opponent in the L Forest. I could get creative and go over here, that risks an ATGM. It really is a bit of a tricky situation. So, I don't know, I kind of expected to see that. I didn't see it. I was happy I didn't see it, but, you know, I think that's something that would have made the game a lot tougher. At this point, if you are still hanging around and you do like these sorts of things, please don't hesitate to give a like, share, subscribe, all that YouTuber nonsense. I don't know, it helps me out. 2/3 of my channel roughly is not subscribed, so if even a quarter of you guys do that, we'd hit 1,000 subscribers tomorrow. Bear that in mind. Well, I guess that wouldn't really do anything for you guys, but it would make me happy. So, on this side, STRF going in, LHV coming in, Fallskirmjäger 90, we're sitting there a little bit longer than they should have been without really moving forward, but they are moving forward now, and these guys have really good punch with the Eriks, as well as with the Lichta MG3. So the intention was to get some shock training, 15 strength squads, really challenge those Motschutzen, and also challenge the tanks if they want to come down here, the Wilks if they want to come down here, and get some good combat in, some good engagements. This is not one. My Fallskirmjäger are in the open. That's exactly where they should not be. But with the CV90s, with the Stormers, with all this sort of stuff going in, that at least will get a couple of nice kills. I do have to be careful to keep moving it though, and we have the Mi-24D. That is the reason I brought the RBS 90. We do take him down. That's another really valuable kill right there. And even if I am losing a couple other things, we're just replacing it with cheap stuff. You know, 10-point M41s. One of my favorite ways to grind somebody down. This really hurt though. Losing the Stormer, the other Stormer down to 5. We're going to be trying to retreat out and heal up, but if there's more artillery, that's not going to be possible. And then I need a bit of time before I can gather another attempt to push my opponent up to the top of Bravo. In the meantime, we're each trying to get that +1. I need to cap down here on the bottom side of Bravo. My opponent needs to take Triangle Forest, and he's going to be able to do it, probably. LSTR 40 are a bit of a menace. There's Zalesnici, there's a BMP-1. With that artillery support, it was too much for me to handle here, although I do like the STRF on the side as well. People don't expect it. So, I mean, if your opponent opens big into the left side of the map, this won't work, but yeah, I figured why not, and it's paying off right now. We're killing a lot of things, we're even damaging the Motschutzen 90, which will be pretty nice. This was a mistake. Should have brought the STRF back, make sure that the LSTR would be exposed or not able to push up forward. I mean, like this is zoning out pretty well. And then we will get the cap on Bravo, that'll get a +1. And so long as I retake that section of Triangle, I think this is really an advantageous situation. So, you know, I can go into Golf maybe, I can go into Triangle maybe. I was starting to feel like maybe I was getting a bit of an edge on the trading as well, just because of the beacon. Turns out, not quite so much because of the beacon, but, you know, it's hard to judge at the time. And keep in mind too, kills are not all that matters. If you're forcing your opponent to buy resupply trucks to constantly heal damaged infantry, that's a tax as well that doesn't show up as a kill. If you're constantly preventing your opponent from being able to attack because you're pounding them with 7 HE power broken artillery pieces, that's a tax as well. Here's one thing, these STRVs are spotted. I realized this in about a couple of seconds, but that's already too long. My opponent's probably shooting his arty at them already. If he was a plane spammer, there would be very easily a cluster plane here I wouldn't be able to avoid. And this, by the way, was just to pick up another kill on a prom. It's 35 points, it's definitely worth shooting at. And, I mean, it's a pretty easy kill, not a lot of armor on it. The beacon can definitely kill that quickly. So I put smoke down, but smoke wouldn't have stopped my opponent if he had a bomber or something like that. And yeah, I mean, we are getting pounded by artillery. However, here it comes, Dragoner going up, Gewehrman going up this side, probably going to die, but, you know, sometimes there's not a big defense here, and it can get through. Turns out there is, yeah, at least 4 things shooting in. And, I don't know, I thought, okay, that's fine. Let's make my opponent think I'm going to push on this side. And then if I go up on the high ground, maybe I can get a little bit of work done. I mean, geez, look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At least 2 of those are probably tanks. We saw tanks earlier. And so I wasn't really surprised by that. And then this is clearly a pre-sighted trap. I mean, I wasn't even up here when he started aiming right there, right? So my opponent wants me to push up and just wants me to let him slaughter all the infantry I push up with. So that's not what we're going to do. In fact, right now, all we're going to do is retake this section of Triangle. I don't want those LSTR there for good. I don't want them there for very long at all. And seeing how cost-effective the defense was in Triangle, I'd like to do that again. So I want to retake this before my opponent can reinforce it, and then make him try and take it back, because we're taking +1. It's 83 to 95. We're closing the gap very quickly. Bit of a mistake there, pushing his mortar forward. I might have thought it was the other prom. But now we have the agglomeration of his forces, Beacon shooting in as well. A little bit behind the times here, but I do have mortars. And the Fallskirmjäger are just letting the LHV die, and that Lichta MG3 is dealing a ton of damage in to all these Motschutzen 90. However, the Pavonka usage was quite a lot. It was very nice. Very, very nice indeed. Another mistake, by the way, should have had the Eriks. I should have probably right-clicked here on the Promes, but I was microing over on this side, which my opponent was not. So this is something that was definitely a good trade for me, getting the LSTR at the cost of a couple of boxes, and we just have some cheap stuff go in here, clear out the forest, and keep the M41s back and able to shoot, STRF back and able to shoot, and in the meantime, this is becoming a problem. So my Falskirmjäger are overwhelmed, they aren't using the Edics, there's just more vehicles there than I was really able to deal with, and I never got fire support back over on this side. So that's an issue. I didn't expect Hold the Fort to push on this side, I expected him to push down the other. And because of that, all of my supporting elements are on the wrong end of the field. The strip BV at this point, I should be smoking it off, I should be pulling it back, I'm not. And if Hold the Fort goes through here, that's going to be in a lot of danger. His infantry is already in range to roughly spot it. And all he needs is for, I mean, that was an M1 Wilk right there. All he needs to do is go right over here, and all of a sudden my prospects on getting out go right down the drain. So that's one Wilk, second Wilk behind it, possibly even a third back there, let's see. Yeah, one, two, no, two. Yeah, just two. So I did have RBS here, and this I think was one of the saving graces, is that the Wilks turn to kill the LHV, they turn to kill my Strip BV90, and then they don't see the RBS until the first one's already dead, which that was pretty nice. Fighting Falcon is going to drop not the best use there, and I do lose the plane. Don't buy planes, kids, it's not a good decision. It doesn't really clear out all that much in fire support, but it does get a stun, and that does let me get the kill with the RBS, so bit of a mixed bag. Bit of a mixed bag indeed, and you know, losing the CV9030Ns, that adds up over time. There's 50 points for these guys, not to mention the Stormer inside them. I just figured, I think I've killed most of his infantry, and I don't want to let the M1 Wilk escape. So we're pushing up the 103Ds, we're trying to intercept Mochitsu 90 with Stormers, and then even CV9030Ns, they will kill a Wilk relatively easily at close range. The Bushmaster 2 is insane, and I have Stormer, so let's just go, let's see what we can get. I had the feeling he pushed in with everything, and if he did, it's going to be a little bit of time before he can get more stuff down here. There's a T-72M1K. As soon as that's sighted, we're going to be re-firing the B-can. Should see that, well, I think I did anyway. Maybe not. I think I was hoping to kill it with the Stormer. And Carl Gustav M2 is very nice. 18 AP power isn't a ton, but the M1K only has 14 front, 7 side. So if I get a lucky side shot, that's easy. If I get a front shot, it still would be pretty decent. And that was, at the end of the day, not the best trading it could be, but you know, I can't complain. We killed three 90-point Wilks. Pretty nice. On the other hand, I just missed. I'm taking some incoming fire. I landed only 3 damage here. It's not going to be enough, and especially not when my opponent realizes it and moves in. But that was double Neva back there. We are fending off here. This is what I was saying earlier. A single CV9030N with restricted vision out and some Dragoner, and this is really hard to push. And then the Stormer chasing down these Nevas. This was a right click trying to get close enough because these guys are dirt slow. So the Stormer might be able to catch them. And then that's the M2, 1 shot, 1 kill. 80 points there, and another 80 points on the way, the second Stormer shoot again. 160 points of backline, anti-air. We get revenge for our plane, and we clear the zone pretty well. I mean, yeah, his CV tank's alive, but this is pretty nice. This is not as bad as it could have been, and the fact that we're holding him off in golf is really the icing on the cake. So I have CV9030Ns over here. I do need to kill the Prom S, but that, I mean, yeah, I thought it would be an easier thing to do, but we lose vision on him the first time, and then, yeah, a little bit rough. So this was pretty scary. This is why I was moving the CV9030Ns over instead of up. If I'd moved them up, probably could have taken out the Mochitsu. Moving them over, instead I actually lose 1, and then I don't see what shot, so I can't fire back, and that's going to be actually Conquer's M team right there. And down goes not 1, but 2. So nice ETGM placement, didn't really expect it too much, and it definitely got its money's worth there. So my front line's pretty much been cleared out. We're going to be buying reinforcements, Stormers, and CV9030Ns. I need some cheap chaff as well, and I need some more numbers just to feel more comfortable in golf than I was. I mean, a single Dragoner and then the Strip BV90. Basically everything here killed each other. So all of my stuff here died, all of my opponent's stuff here died, but we did it at cost, and because of an earlier B-can strike here, actually no, sorry, that was a different game, securing the forward town in golf is really a big thing. Now, the answering Thermomeg is a good call. I don't have that much in terms of anti-air on the field at all, only a single automatic. It's actually a big flaw in my play, but I figured with the mech fest that was going on, not a lot of planes for my opponent either. I mean, this is 25 minutes in, first plane buy, that I could get away with it only for a little while. So as soon as I see that come out, we're going to buy not 1, but soon to be 2 Ihawks, and both my Stormers survive, so that could have been worse. I do need to heal them up a little bit, but it really could have been worse. This, however, I mean, more moat shoots and more SBWs, that was a little bit scary. I did lose an STRV, and then I really didn't want to get pushed all the way back into Charlie, because, think about it, right now, this is a win. If we go 0 points to 0 points for another 15 minutes, I get a win. But the amount of time my opponent needs a +1, let alone a +2, is very small to turn that around. So I want to be contesting Bravo, I want to be killing a CV in Bravo, I want to be having my own CV there, get a +1 there. I really want to lock down Golf, because if I can't lock down Golf and I start losing on this side, that is going to be the recipe for disaster. A +2 gets my opponent to victory in so little time, it would beggar belief, but I've seen it happen before. I've lost games that way before as well, and if you heard your Discord notification go off, that was me, not you, I swear. So, second round of the Thermomig, and this is probably because Hold the Fort didn't see any anti-air, well, any anti-plane anti-air going after the first one. So we're just ducking out of the way of it, trying to keep that strip PV alive, and that's going to be the impetus for the second IHawk to get up here and just shut that down, right? So probably needed it before, got it now, and this is looking a little dicey. I mean, repositioning here is not great. Bravo is a hard pit fight. Moatschützen versus Fallskirmjäger 90 will go my way, but not if there's an endless tide of Moatschützen, and not if there's the vehicle spam that we saw earlier that was just too many guns firing in against me. So need more reinforcements here, need more reinforcements in Golf. ATGM moving up, trying to lock down that section of the road. And I don't know, I still felt kind of cautiously optimistic. One thing I think that really went my way is being able to shut down 2 55-point Hinds by now, and getting some shots on the third one as well. We do take that down. It's a lot of points, right? There's 165 points right there. This was really goofy. MiG-21 MF, rocket pod plane, goes for the automatic, and they stun each other. So neither one actually gets the kill. 1 strength on his plane, 3 strength on my automatic. It's a little goofy, but yeah, that happens sometimes. And then these guys just going forward because the autocannons on the NM135s will do a lot of damage to anything that comes down here at close range. So it is kinetic, and I just figured let's get into the L forest here, let's make sure that Golf stays mine. Probably should have brought some more stuff up here and dodged these proms, but I don't know, it's a lot to manage. I was microing over here, and I don't quite see the Jupiters moving forward yet into my opponent's artillery. One thing that is pretty nice though, if your opponent is artillerying a section, odds are they don't have stuff there. So the fact that he was artillerying down here made me feel more safe that you know, he might be prepping a push, but at least it's not here already. It's probably up top. I should probably get the beacon ready, things like that, make sure that I have some tools. And that Thermomig's coming out yet again. Here we have one IHawk, second IHawk is manually stopped short of its location, and we're going to be going in trying to get the kill there. Double miss, because why should my IHawk hit the first time? But we do get the plane at the end, so very nice there. RVS-90 contributing as well. And I don't quite... that one I don't quite understand. Like, I got it when he thermomig the town, but thermomigging right there, I think he was chasing the CV-90 30Ns, and that was very much not worthwhile. Even if he hits them, there's a fair amount of armor on these guys. They move decently quick in woods as well. I'd imagine at least one would get out. So your return on investment for the relatively expensive plane is going to be 25 points probably, 50 points maximum. I don't know, it's one of the reasons people will say planes are a bit of a trap unless they are used perfectly, because it's such an investment, and if you lose that, then, well, things go from bad to worse. So sometimes it can make the game, sometimes it can break the game for you, and you just sort of have to do case by case, figure it out as you go along. This was a little bit headstrong, I think. I saw the Granatama, and I just kind of, I think it's called neuron activating a little bit. I was like, okay, yeah, nothing here can kill these guys. I can maybe kill the BMPs, reinforcements. I thought this might be the first stage to really pushing up on the top of the plateau and ending the game right there, which is far more comfortable for me than duking it out with the Brigadier General for another 10 minutes, right? So we do get the BMPs, we are melting Moatschützen here, but my opponent's counter-pushing, and it's a lot, right? I mean, these guys are 20 points, my Fallskirmjäger are 30, this is going to be at cost for him, and with the artillery, very much at cost. And I'm just sitting there going, okay, you know what? I was contesting this. No, this I think was a mistake. T-72M1 Wilk basically confirms this. I have nothing to stop that guy short of the automatic, which is a risk, and it's not a risk I'm going to take. The second I see not one, but two, more Granatama, more Moatschützen. I mean, we've been trading decently well with this guy for 30 minutes. and yet I'm afraid of his push right now, which I think really does speak to the skill of my opponent, because I've never really been able to do that myself. If I'm down 300 points, 200 points even on trading, I'm not really going to be able to push for very long, so that is something I think it was quite impressive. It was, maybe it's just how mech decks go, but I certainly think there is a lot to it. Falskamjaeger 90 are going to be picking up one of these 90-point Wilks, and this is part of why I like having that card in the mech deck that you don't really think of for speed. Just keep some paratroopers, some combat-capable paratroopers. They will pay for themselves when you need that fast response, especially these guys with the Edicts. Just be careful you don't do what I'm about to do right here. Yeah. Grenades en main, Vitra 2s, artillery. Oof. So, technically worthwhile, but there's a difference between trading well, getting the 90-point kill and the FJB before dying, and being there when you need them. So I have nothing left in my front line short of a couple Gewehrmen that are in the wrong situation. It's why I'm throwing the bell forward, just to distract, to slow my opponent down, so he can't push me out of here quite so quickly as he might otherwise want to. Automatic is going the same way. I would never have taken this engagement if it wasn't to buy time for the Strip BV-90 to escape, and even then, a little bit questionable, right? This is not done properly. I was throwing the infantry fighting vehicles ahead of the infantry. That's not how you want to do it to keep things alive, and because of that, Hold the Fort is able to apply a lot of pressure here. And keep in mind, 50-point difference, if he gets in, if he countercaps me and Charlie, still way enough time to win the game. It's kind of why I wanted to encourage him to surrender by cutting off his reinforcements here, fighting up on the top of the plateau. I really just didn't expect a quite good counter push with those Wilks. So we have more Falskamjaeger going up, Bell 204s, getting just numbers on the ground right now. And it's possible I should have been moving a couple things over. I have an STRF that's sort of too far back. I do have these Gewehrmen here, but I didn't want to sacrifice the defensive Golf at all for this. Maybe not the best decision, I'm actually not quite sure. So if you have thoughts on that, I am all ears in the comments underneath the video. I do check those pretty much daily, so well, there haven't been enough quite so far to be truly overwhelming. If you comment, I'll likely see it, and I'm definitely happy to see your thoughts on it. So, Grenades en main, killing my Falskamjaeger, not exactly ideal, and my Dragoner here are forced to fend off Grenades en main and Motschützen in the open. This was actually, I don't know if it was because he was running out of Motschützen or if he'd just seen that I tend to have exposed infantry, but this was, I think, a buy that really paid off for Hold the Fort. I mean, each one of these guys got a fair amount of payoff. I've lost the Falskamjaeger 90 on this side, and I probably shouldn't have, and what I needed was these M41s that are right here to just move up to right about there, fire in on these Grenades en main while they were exposed, firing at my own men, and that would have been a much cleaner engagement. So the tools were on the board. They just weren't put to the best use. And it's one of those things that I like about watching these replays is you'll catch it when you make those mistakes. And even if you don't, if you talk to somebody, if you find other skilled players, and particularly experienced players will be able to point those things out. And I think everybody can benefit from that to a certain extent. Just get a second glance at things. Like, you ever lose something in your home and you swear you looked everywhere and you can't find it, and then all of a sudden your wife walks in and finds it in 5 seconds and tells you you're an idiot, you can't find where you left your own shit. It's sort of the same thing here. It's like, sometimes you can look at something and because you were the one who played the game, the solution to it might not have occurred to you. So I highly recommend getting second opinions. Stormer moving forward, CV9030N's moving forward, and the biggest problem right now is this Mi-24D. And the solution here was actually the CV9030N's. These guys, Bushmaster 2 is not the best range against helicopters, but just enough. And, I mean, they have the DPS to get through the armor on these Hinds, because keep in mind, these guys have one front, one side, but short range, kinetic will get the kills there, just so long as my CV9030Ns don't get stunned. So that's basically why I'm bringing in more. I'm bringing in NM45s. These guys are fast wheels and really good range against the Mi-24Ds, already firing because, lo and behold, for 15 points, they have a stabilizer. It's 5%, but it's still a stabilizer. Even if it doesn't get the kill, it might get the stun, and it'll certainly do some chip damage. LHV, moving forward, I figured why not sort of try and probe in here, and I think he did see them, that's why he bought a Hind, but it's a 55-point buy to fend off 10 points of LHV. That's worthwhile for me, especially when there's a command tank right here, when I'm risking getting a +2 on me, and we are getting into the closing bit of this game in terms of my opponent's opportunity to get the points he needs, right? even 30 points a minute, 1 minute doesn't close the gap. He needs 2 minutes to tie, 3 minutes to win. So with 5 minutes left, he has to make his claim here in 2 minutes or less. We do see the T-55 command tank right there. And what I do next, I'm not particularly proud of, because it is a little bit cheesy. But we are going to have a Block 5 going around this way. I'm reasonably confident I have control of this airspace. I'm not so sure about over here. Remember, we did see the 2 80-point Nevas earlier on in the game. So I'm just taking a wide swing out. Haven't really seen many ASFs from him either. And we're going to cluster. Now, if he had an ASF and bought it in time, that's dead Block 5. But so long as I get the bombs off, I'm okay with that. Control of the zone hasn't blipped. He hasn't moved the command tank, and that's going to be a kill there. Decap on Hotel flips me to +2. And it's going to take a minimum of about 45 seconds to probably about a minute to get a CV back in Hotel. That's another 30 points, give or take, for me as well. So, quite happy with that. I think that really did go a long way to make me feel like, okay, as long as something catastrophic doesn't happen right here, we should be fine. And even here, we're pushing him back, M41s and M45s, more Stormer, more CV9030Ns, just finally getting the edge on that mechanized grind. So, I mean, there's a Wilk, there's a command tank, but this is actually, I really like putting the M45s together with M41A1s. They do so much damage, it's insane. For not a lot of points, too. I mean, 15 points apiece, 10 points apiece. You get recon, you get some armor, you get some long-range anti-helicopter work. It really is an all-around group, especially if you have a little bit of infantry with them as well, which I didn't. But I did have a second Block 5, so that's going to be a dead command tank in Bravo. Didn't really need to kill it at this point because it couldn't accomplish its objective, but it's still a 120-point kill. It still denies that possibility. So now if Hold the Fort pushes me out here in Charlie, at least he can't cap it. And we did get about 30 or so points, maybe even a little bit more from the cap in Hotel. And that's pretty much going to be, I think that's going to be pretty much it. We still do have about 3 minutes left in the game. We're going to go through at speed 2, and then we'll see some of the highlight units of the match as well toward the end, which we'll see, I think, a lot of kills off the CV9030Ns. Keep in mind these guys are also a deterrent, so if your opponent knows you have them, BMPs are not really going to feel comfortable to advance because the CV9030Ns just wreck their day, right? So there's a board presence to them as well that I think is part of what makes them such an impactful unit for Scandi Mech. So I will try to have more ranked games. I will try to have more community casts. I have sort of been derelict in my duty there, but we'll get it sorted. We'll get it figured out. And, I mean, just a last-minute plan. I think this was the other Thermomig. No. Rocket Pod plane was just looking for a CV kill there, but bit of a desperation move. Even if it had worked, there's not enough time left to end it. So at this point, we were saying GG. Shared a bit of a laugh on some of the back and forth between Bravo and Charlie, and it was overall a good experience, which is, it's always very refreshing to have that playing ranked when you have, you know, Helo rushers, you occasionally have map hackers, things like that. This was very much not that experience. It was a very good thing there, so I was happy for it. And I want to give a shout out to Hold the Fort for his good sportsmanship in that regard. So, you know, more reinforcements getting here. Block 5 fighting Falcon, just sort of sending him out because I had him. And, yeah, just a last-minute friendly plane volley here. So, standout units, let's take a look. And first off, the kills losses 3605 to 2730. That did not feel like that wide of a gap to me while it was happening. And maybe a lot of it was at the end, sort of hard for me to judge there. But, yeah, far from the worst ranked game I've had. I was quite happy with it. Alright, so standout units, the RBS-56 did very well just for screening. M41A1s, I mean, look at this. It's a 10-point recon tank. You have Tatras, you have the 50 PKs, you have BMP-1s. That right there is nearly a 3 times return on investment, and that's just one of them. The other one killing more BMP-1s, NM135s doing very good work, and I think it's really just a lot of good return on cheap units. BCAN-1A did kill that first command tank right at the very beginning, did kill the Conqueror's M's in the town. There's a lot of utility there, just a lot of value to it as well. And that's going to be all she wrote, so thank you guys for hanging around, and we'll have another game for you tomorrow.